Okay, we'll start. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We see there's lots of people, so thank you very much. I'm going to start by presenting myself. I'm Joanna. I work for Groupe RD, which is a French think tank where I am an environment and climate researcher, but I'm also the coordinator of the Humanitarian Environment Network, Réseau Environnement Humanitaire. REH. And I'm very happy to be here today, and I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Julie, if you want to go ahead and present yourself.
Hi everyone, I am Julie Mayans. I work for Solidarity International. I am the head of the Food Security and Livelihood department, and I am also a focal point for all questions related to climate and environment. And I will pass the floor to Laurie.
Thanks, Julie. Hi everyone, I'm Laurie, and I work for the Netherlands Red Cross, and I'm the Green Response and Logistics Officer. And I pass the mic to Swazik.
Hi everyone, I'm Swazik from Première Urgence International. I work as Environment and Climate Advisor, and I will pass the mic to Pierre-Marie.
Good morning everyone, Pierre-Marie from Action contre la faim, Action Against Hunger, and I'm a WASH Technical Advisor. And that's it.
You can pass it back to me. Yeah.
I can pass it back to you, Joanna.
Thank you. So today is quite a short session, but just to let you know what we have on the agenda. First, we just want to get to know a little bit who's in the room. So we just have a few questions for you. Then we're going to introduce the REH, Humanitarian Environment Network, and the working group that's developed the MERA Matrix. Then we'll go ahead and present the MERA Matrix, how to use it, the methodology, and so on, and then present to you the next steps and have a few minutes for Q&A. Feel free to put in the chat if you have any questions. I will try to answer them at the end. So first, we just wanted to know who's in the room and to know where you're joining us from. Sorry. Personally, I'm sitting in Paris, France. You can join either by scanning the QR code with your smartphone or go to slido.com and enter the numbers on the screen. And you can also access through the link that's in the chat. And I see people are already accessing it, so that's great. If anyone wonders what La Fontaine is where Groupe RD is placed, and so it's one of my colleagues. It's in the middle of France. Okay, I see we have people coming from everywhere, but we have lots of people sitting like me in Paris and France. But we actually have people from all over the world. That's quite cool. Okay, well, thank you. We have another question for you is what type of organization do you work for? Sorry, we tried to be a little bit broad, so maybe lots of you are going to be in the other section. Okay, so we have lots of people from NGOs. I'm sure your colleagues invited you to the session. And then if you have sectoral expertise, would be really keen to know. That's why we put all the different options there. Environment and climate change is a little bit broad again. We have a tie for WASH and environment and climate change. That's great. We hope that this session will help you in your work. And then finally, if you can tell us which best describes your role. Again, we went very broad, so sorry, there might be lots of you guys are in the other section. Okay, well, I think the right people are in the room because the MERA is for environment and climate monitoring technical advisors. But we'll go more into detail about this, but thank you. Happy to have you here. Just a few words on the REH, the Réseau Environnement Humanitaire Humanitarian Environment Network. So that you know where the MERA Matrix is coming from. This network has been around since 2012, but it was restructured in 2021. And it is a network of Francophone, humanitarian, and development workers who work together to reduce the environmental footprint of aid. We have over 300 members, including 30 organizations, and the different members of this network are working together in an operational way through 4 working groups. We have one on waste management, one on carbon, one on sustainable procurement, and one on environmental assessments, which is the working group that's hosting the session today. If you're interested to know more about this network, you can type in the name on Google and you'll find our website. So the Environmental Assessment Working Group, who's hosting the session today, has been around since 2021. The aim of the working group is to help its members and the rest of the sector to use environmental screening tools. And so we initially focused on the NEET Plus tool, but we've also explored other tools such as the CDRIC, the Environmental Stewardship tool. And what the working group has done is develop tutorial videos to use the NEET Plus, but also provided feedback on the NEET Plus through reports. We've also been a member of the NEET Plus steering committee since it was created this year or last year, I can't remember. And so really the aim of all its members is to work together to really mainstream the use of environmental screening tools. You have the member organizations and their logo at the bottom of the screen here, and some of them are here today with us. And before, we just have 2 more questions for you before we go more into detail about the MERA Matrix. It's to know whether your organization is using environmental screening tools. I think lots of your organizations are already using them or they're thinking about it. Okay, thank you. Well, we hope that the work of the working group can help towards that. And if you use those tools, or if you don't, but you've heard of tools, which tools have you heard of or do you use? And this is a multiple choice question, which is why the percentages don't add up to 100. But NEET Plus is by large the front runner, so that's really interesting to know. Thank you for answering all of those questions. And now we're going to go a little bit more in detail about the MERA Matrix. And I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Julie to explain the rationale behind the MERA Matrix.
Thanks, Joanna. So as Joanna was saying, we are a group of people within the working group on environmental screening, and we've been working since few years on looking at different tools And we had a conclusion last year that the existing tools were not fully satisfying us and the needs in the field. We especially have been working with the Need Plus, as Joanna was saying, and Need Plus is obviously, as we just seen, a very known tool, but it's still waiting some improvements, and we are working with the team in charge of the Need Plus on that. But in the meantime, we are not fully satisfied, so we had started to last year to say what would be an alternative. So that's what we will present today. We also we also believe that the real added value of environmental screening is when the result is in adjusting your project to really make it operational and concrete, the inclusion of mitigation measures. And we also think that it's important to have a participatory analytical process with all the key project stakeholders involved in the assessment and the design phases of the project. And that is how we came to think of this matrix. So the MERA, the Multi-sectoral Environmental Risk Analysis Matrix. Next slide, please, Joanna. So as an introduction of the MERA, so as mentioned, what we wanted to do is to have a matrix that will help project developers and technical advisors to be more aware of environmental risks linked to their projects and to come up with recommendations to mitigate the negative environmental risks of their projects. And we wanted something that is quite practical and easy to use, and that guide the analysis process. Okay, next. Thanks, Joanna. So what it is, this matrix intends to identify, to help the field teams to identify the potential environmental risks and the associated mitigation measures of those risks. And it's developed for different humanitarian sectors, so FSL, WASH, shelter, and MHPSS. So in this matrix that you will see in a few minutes, we have listed the risks on the environment of humanitarian activities and the associated mitigation measures. And this is listed by sector of intervention. And then in each sector, it's listed by subsector and activity. So the when you should be used this matrix. So we think that this matrix should be used especially during the project design. So to help you to effectively integrate the resources to be able to implement environmental mitigation measures in your project, so ahead of during the project design phase. And who can use this matrix? So this matrix is aimed to be used by project managers, project coordinators, and technical advisors. But then those persons will obviously include many other key project stakeholders in the use of this matrix. But those are the ones that will lead the use of the MERA matrix.
Thank you. Just a few words on how the matrix was developed. So as Julie mentioned, it's been a year in the works. So firstly, what we've done is that there were sectoral task forces that were created within the working group with a few experts, starting with the expertise that we already had within the working group. And then those sectoral task forces reviewed the content of existing tools to select the most relevant mitigation measures. We looked at the Need Plus, we looked at the environmental stewardship tool, we looked at the ECHO's minimum environmental requirements, and also different sectoral tools when they existed. Then, in collaboration between the sectoral task forces and the working group, the scope of the matrix was defined. And then the sectoral task force combined the review of the content that they've done with their expertise to have a list of mitigation measures per sector, subsector, activity, and stage. You'll see when you access the matrix, how it's set up. Because we wanted it to be collaborative and to have a sector consensus, it was very important for us to have a peer review process. So each sectoral task force reached out to hold revision sessions for their tabs. Those were public revision sessions. We reached out to the different clusters, the clusters working group on climate change and the environment when they existed, and also the networks of each of the sectoral experts within the task force. Overall, more than 200 people were involved from 70 different organizations, and we wanted to highlight the contributions of the different organizations whose logo are here on this slide, because their experts helped us in the peer review and the collaboration for this matrix. Finally, once the content was finalized, the environmental assessment working group agreed on the final look of the matrix, and then we harmonized the different tabs. The matrix was originally done in English, and it was then translated to French and Spanish. And then now we're holding online sessions to diffuse the matrix. I want to note that this matrix was co-funded by the European Union Humanitarian Aid, DG ECHO, and that their help was very helpful in developing the matrix and in its diffusion. Before we go further along, I'll pass it on to Swazik to let us know what the MERA Matrix is not.
Yeah. So thank you. We already saw why we developed and what is it. It's very important to notice that this matrix doesn't replace any of the other tools that exist already, such as the environmental screening tools. We heard about NEED+, but there is also EST, other screening tools. The idea is that we link in the matrix, we have links to those matrices that we recommend because they are very complementary. So very important to know that we are not replacing any existing tool. Also, even though there were many people working on this matrix, this cannot be an exhaustive list of risk and mitigation measures. So of course, if you have other, depending on your context, there may be other measures that you can identify and apply. This is not context specific. That means that you need to work with your teams on the ground to adapt the mitigation measures to your specific context. And of course, it serves also as a basis to review other tools. For example, all the contents that have been defined and developed and validated by many experts will be used for the new version of the NEED+ that we are working on. Thank you, Joanna, back to you.
Back to me, actually.
Sorry.
Merci, Swazik. I want to take one slide to discuss with you about how to use the matrix. The idea is that, as Swazik said, it's not contextualized. So you need to sit down with your colleagues, with the stakeholders of your projects to understand what it is you want to do as your project activity, and to look at the matrix and to put it in regard with what you want to do, so that you can extract what risks are related to your activities, and to identify which of the mitigation measures that is proposed in the matrix is most applicable to your specific project. So when feasible, going through a workshop and going through a discussion with your colleagues from different sectors, but also with the stakeholders of the project would be quite necessary. And again, from there, you can identify your activities, so all of the activities that you will be implemented, and pick what mitigation, what adaptation, what measure you can implement. And from there, you will have to identify what you need to do in order to implement this mitigation measure. So again, the idea, as for a NEED+, as for other screening tools, the idea is to do this exercise ahead of your project development, so that you can actually fund for it, you can actually prepare for it, plan for it. In the tool that we are finally going to look at just after I finish speaking, you can see that there is a first tab that explains the different how it is built. Then there is one tab for each of the sectors that have been developed and created, and you can filter per your sub activities and activities. So I'm a wash person, and I can filter and I can select the sub activities. So I can select only the water activities, for example, and then I can go and select all the water activities that go within. If that makes sense. And then from there, for each activity, you will see that you can have multiple risks that have been already identified, and for each of these risks, the various mitigation measures. The tool in itself is an Excel table, and you will see that will give you a link that you can use to download on your own computer the MERA Matrix, which means that once you've downloaded it, it's yours and you can adapt it. You can remove things, you can add things, you can create new columns, and it's for you to use, really. So look at the MERA Matrix as something for you to use, to adapt, and to make as try to make the best out of it. And this is really your work now. And I don't remember if I pass the floor to Laurie or to Joanna now. I'm lost again.
Tibi. Thank you. Sorry, we tried to make this dynamic, but so we have to remember who's speaking when. Now's the time where you can go and have a look at the matrix. So we've just uploaded it. You can access it. You can't click on the link here, but my colleagues will put the link in the chat. You will land on this page where you will have those 3 first links, which are the MERA Matrix itself. So if you click on it, an Excel file will download on your laptop. You have one in English, one in French, and one in Spanish. You can also have access to the presentation sheet. The presentation sheet has all the methodology that we've talked about today and even more. And it is really to go with the MERA Matrix if you want more information. It's also available in French, English, and Spanish. And then here you have the links to the feedback forums, also in English, French, and Spanish. And I'll go more into detail about this, but feel free to provide feedback on the matrix through those forums so that we can improve the matrix. So I think now you have access to the matrix, and I'm going to pass over to Laurie and actually pass the screen share to Laurie so that she can walk you through it.
Yeah, thanks, Joanna. Let me share my screen, change a bit. And yes, sorry, so in the chat, I've first shared the matrix itself in English, the Excel file that I'm showing right now on the screen. And the second link is the link to the page where you can find all the different links to all the languages, etc. All right, so now a little bit more practice or visual, finally visualizing what this matrix is about and looks like. Let me just take the screen. All right, so basically an Excel file, old-fashioned way, very user-friendly and simple. There are 6 tabs, as Pierre-Marie said. The first one is the guidance note. So it's basically everything we have told you during this seminar. The why, the when to use this, for who, and how to use it, a bit of the recommended methodology we give you, the link to the feedback form, and all the people that were involved in designing the tool. And then the most interesting part are these 4 tabs, obviously, with the sector. So FSL with this Food Security and Livelihoods, then the WASH, Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, the Shelter, and MHPSS, which is Mental Health and Psychosocial Support. And the last tab, Swazik mentioned it as well, is the tab where we linked and put all our sources and all the tools and material used to design the matrix. And it's really useful because obviously this is an add-on and it's to be embedded in other tools and things, not reinventing anything. So you can really use all the other sources that are actually summarized here. Right, all right, doing maybe a bit more, not to practice, but just to explain what Pierre-Marie said a bit more in a narrative way, how practically you can use the matrix. So I will take the FSL tab, for example. So if you have a proposal for an FSL project or a wash or whatever, you select the tab that is relevant for you. And then extremely simple, you would just select then the subsector. So you have the filtering feature. You look at it. Let's say we want to look at the income generating activity business support. You select it, you click OK, and then it will skim and filter it for you. And that's again, so then it will give all the potential activities that can go with this subsector. So you already have quite a lot. And maybe you can also filter this activity to adapt it to your proposal and your project, or keep all of them. Doesn't matter. I'm not an FSL expert, but let's say I want to look at selection of business and income generating activities. And then you see it filters again. And then you have actually on these two activities, you have only 2 potential environmental risks that have been listed. Again, it's non-exhaustive. It doesn't mean there are not other ones existing, but at the moment, this is what our matrix offers you. And this is where it really comes into place, the fact that you need to sit or you need to have this discussion about it, because you need to select, to prioritize and adapt actually these risks and mitigation to your project and to the context. So for example, here there are 2 risks. You can decide, okay, you address both of them or you address only one of them based on the likelihood of this risk to take place or the importance of the risk that will affect the communities, the scale of the impact, or all other factors that you can have in mind. And once you've decided on this, you can decide, you do the same thing, let's say, with the mitigation measures. Here, for example, for the first row, you have many mitigation measures on the first risk. And you do the exact same exercise, trying to select, prioritize, and adapt to your project. So same thing, you can think, okay, do we address all of them? Are we able to do it? Is it feasible financially, technically? Does it fit also the time scale of the project? And you have this discussion, you contextualize it, and then you select and decide what you want to address and also implement in your or use in your proposal, right? And I think the last thing I want to mention maybe here to echo Pierre-Marie is, again, when you do this exercise, this is your tool. It's on your computer. If you want to add any extra column next to it, once you have actually prioritized your risk or your mitigation measures, you can just maybe add a column for the priority or the likelihood, or also a column for budget, whichever column you could like to have, and that makes sense for you. And I think that's it for a bit the tool. I mean, we don't want to go too much into detail. We'll just have a look yourself, but you can do the same exercise with all the sector, right? So you can do the same with WASH. You have a lot, and you can see it's a very we really made a big effort to have as many risk and mitigation measures possible listed to make it easy for all of us actually to design this proposal and maybe even environmental management plan, or really have this screening thoroughly done, right?
Thank you.
Jonathan, back to you, except if you want to add anything on this little demo.
No, thank you. That's it. We'll have in a few minutes. We'll have like some Q&A session if you have any questions. Just before we hand it over to the Q&A, I want to mention that this matrix is collaborative and that it can evolve by integrating users' recommendations. You can do it either via contacting the working group or through the feedback forms, as I've mentioned. Please try to always go back to the ROH website page and download it again, as when feedback is going to come through, like minor tweaks, we'll make changes, and so the original file will always be there. And so I'm going to open it if you guys have any questions. And I can't see you actually, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that if we have questions, I can see them.
I may just add a comment because we didn't speak about it, but we have a team working on the health matrix that will come soon. So in a few months, we will complement this very good matrix with the health sector.
Thank you, Swazik. Thank you. So I'm seeing there's a comment by Emily here on given the MERA was also funded by ECHO, has there been some discussion with them if the use of the MERA alone is sufficient for ECHO to cover their requirements for conducting an environmental impact assessment for wash and shelter? So just as we've mentioned that this is not an environmental assessment and it doesn't replace the screening tools, it is, however, helpful to integrate mitigation measures. So maybe you can have a discussion internally, but it's really on the part of integrating the mitigation measures within your project design. And I don't know if my colleagues want to add anything on this.
Yeah, I may just add that ECHO is not requiring any specific tool. The only thing they are requiring is that you have a methodology to ensure that you tackle all the risks the potential environmental risk of your project, and that you have a plan to mitigate those risks. So there is no specific requirement on the tools that is being used. So you can use whatever tool you want, but you just have to include all the mitigation measures in your proposal.
Thank you. Yeah, and if you can find the links, you can go ahead on the RH website and find it. Yes, we have a hand raised. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, good morning. This is Damien from the Global Food Security Cluster. I'm sorry, my camera is not working, but that's okay. Yeah, so from the GFSA, what we could be interested is to share this matrix to the cluster coordinator, the food security cluster coordinator. And will you be interested to do this similar presentation to them?
So I'm gonna let Julie answer this.
Hi, Damien. Yes, of course, we are pleased to do some disseminations through the food security cluster, but not only to the other shelter, MHPSS and WASH cluster as well. So yeah, we can keep in touch on that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and maybe some countries will be interested also to have a further dissemination at country level, so we can see how we can work on that. And maybe usually because you will be in Rome, I guess in about 2 weeks. Yeah, we can discuss a bit more on how we can strengthen all this environment piece in with the food security cluster. Over to you.
Thank you. I think there's another question. Any plan to have a multi-sectoral tab? Well, that was actually internal discussions that we've had. I think what we've decided on is rather to have more of a mainstream way of integrating multi-sectoral issues. But that is definitely in the talks within the working group. This is the first version that was very sectoral, but we're aware it has its limits as well. If any of the working group members want to add anything, go ahead.
Maybe I can just mention, for example, for the logistics or operations part, there's been a lens. There are 2 people in this group, myself and a colleague of mine, Mathieu, from the French Red Cross. We are also logisticians, so we gave this lens to the best of our abilities to the tool. So it's kind of already embedded. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a big discussion on whether we should have a specific tab for a multi-sector, but in the end, we decided that the specific technical advisors or program managers will have a look at their cluster sector and maybe won't be looking at the multi-sectoral tab. So we decided that in the next version, we try to have all the same information about multi-sectoral, but in all the tabs. So, but we still can think about it and the best way to do it.
Thank you. I think I'm missing some questions because there's actually a lot of activity in the chat. Sorry. I'm seeing people saying that they would be happy to support. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Also, lots of people that are here in the room helped us with the peer review. So thank you. And we'll note if we start working on this, we'll have your emails on hand. I think there's an issue with the webpage, but I'm trying to fix it right now. I don't know why it's doing this, but if you click on the French link and then click on the English, like little flag, it will be in English. And the MERA Matrix itself is available in all 3 languages on the links.
Joanna, maybe I can take some questions.
Go ahead,
especially
please, because I'm lost in the chat.
I saw Margareta questions. So one is, does it mean that we use the NEED Plus to assess, then we use MERA to see the options we can do to reduce the environmental risks? So maybe my colleagues can complete, but it can be used in this way. It can also be used the way around, but the idea also on the MERA was to help the revision of the NEED Plus tool, as we mentioned before, and to help to have more concrete operational mitigation measures within the NEED Plus, because it's one of the things that is missing nowadays of or what we analyze as a missing part. It's sometimes very general recommendations in terms of mitigation measures. So the idea is that the MERA help also to revise the content of the NEED Plus, but yes, so you can use the way you present it. I don't know if my colleagues want to complete, because there is another question of Margareta I wanted to reply to. Do you want to complete about how to use the NEED Plus and the MERA as a complementary tools, or it's okay?
No, just there was another comment from Karen, I think, that she was mentioning that it would be great if the group could consider also collecting best practice. I think it's a bit what we are trying to do, like more concrete measures, as you said before, Julie. So of course it can be, maybe we are not holistic, but we try to put as many concrete measures as possible based on best practices or guidelines already from other NGOs. So I think it's what we try to do.
And I think that was also, there was also questions about what about the cash voucher assistance. So what we have done is that we have included for example, activities that are specific to cash or voucher assistance are included in the food security and livelihood section, could be also included in the other section whenever it's relevant. So this is the including as a modality of assistance within the different sectors sections. If there are other questions also, please, you can just open your mic and let us know your question or comments, because sometimes it's difficult to see all the questions in the chat. Do not hesitate to raise your hand and take the floor.
There's a question by Pierre for if the presentation will be shared. So this presentation is recorded and will be uploaded on the same website so that you can access it later on as well. But all the information is in the presentation sheet, which is more nicely presented than by ourselves. But you have all the information on the website.
And the question from Didier that just popped up, yes, we will do other dissemination, other webinar like this one in different languages, in French, that's for sure.
Spanish.
Yeah, there will be a French
date?
session, hopefully before Christmas, and a Spanish version in the new year.
There is also one comment of Fabiano on that the mitigation measures can be a bit superficial. That's a good comment. And that was also tricky for us. So we try to provide a list of mitigation measures that are enough specific and detailed, but not too much also, not to have a too heavy matrix. But as you mentioned in the chat, the idea also is to guide the analysis process within the team, through a workshop. And so those mitigation measures that we propose for each risk are really to start the conversation, the discussion among the project team, and then to contextualize and to go further in what could be the most relevant and concrete mitigation measure for the project and the context of this team.
So Eileen asks, sorry if I missed information, but how long does it take to use the MERA Matrix? It kind of depends of how you use it. If you use our recommended way to use it, by discussing it with your colleagues, it will take a longer time. The idea is kind of to help you accelerate this phase of how to integrate the mitigation measures within your project. So it kind of depends on how you use it. If any of my colleagues want to complete.
Yeah, and also it depends when you use it. You can use it at the project design, but also when you revise the project monitoring and evaluation, and when you add new activities and you would like to see if there are any potential risk. So it really depends when and who will use it. It's more, but I think it's an awareness tool also to make sure that everybody involved in the project design and implementation realize that any activity can have potential risk, and that there are existing mitigation measures that we can put in place. So it's not a question of how much time it will take you to use it. It's more about a useful tool that you can open at any time. And as Pierre-Marie explained, it's a very to-use tool that you can adapt to your specific needs. It's yours. It's an Excel. It's a filter, and there are filters very easy to use. So I think it's just a question of appropriation.
There's a question of how often this matrix can be updated. So if there's feedback about like minor tweaks, we'll do them as we receive them. And for the larger updates, such as the health publication, we'll try to let people know when it is uploaded. For the rest, we need to think about at the working group level how we can improve it. And I can actually tell you how many times it can be updated, but at least don't hesitate to let us know about minor tweaks and also improvements that you'd like to see in the future. And we'll try to take them into consideration without making any promise that we can.
There is another question from Robin saying, have the risk and mitigations been defined based on varied context? Or is it maybe better adapted for certain region cases? No, it's not contextualized, so it's not specific for certain regions. We could not enter into details.
Maybe I can take some. So looking at several comments, I think I feel there is a need of having, let's say, success stories on concrete, real mitigation measures and how they have been operationalized, included in the project. So that's not what our MERA Matrix can offer you, but that's something else that we are discussing among our group. Because it's we have also analyzed that there is a need also to show successes in implementing really those mitigation measures and showing that they have an impact on the reduction of the negative environmental impact of the projects, and even they can have a positive impact on environment. So let's say that that's something we are discussing. We don't want to cover that with this matrix, but that's maybe a next action point for us as a working group. So would be happy to talk with you further on that. Did we reach
I
all the
think-
questions?
I think so.
And we are almost.
Yeah,
Joanna,
and
maybe you
hit
can
the time.
have the closure.
Oh, we have another question. Go ahead.
Faisal, you can go ahead.
Yes. Hello, everybody. My question. You have we have translate here or no from Arabic?
No, not yet. Well, I'm saying not yet. We don't.
The language is broken in English. I am sorry, but I have very many meters from Iraq because we have a challenge in Iraq very big. I am sorry, my language is broken. I would like we have translate here. I am sorry.
Yeah, if any of you participating in this conference would like to help us translating in Arabic, it would be wonderful because it's a collaborative method. But no, yet
say it in
we
Arabic
don't
يا
have the
فيصل.
translation.
نعم.
Say it in Arabic. Say it in Arabic. قولها بالعربي. قولها بنحاول نساعدك.
شكرا جزيلا. شكرا على المساعدة. صراحة أنا فيصل من العراق. بالعراق إحنا نواجه كثير من المصاعب الخاصة بالبيئة بصراحة.
واضح تمام كمل.
أهم هذه المصاعب ضعف الحكومة أمام الدور التركي وأمام الدور الإيراني بالاتفاقيات الخاصة بالمياه فيما يخص الأنهر والمصبات الموجودة في تركيا وإيران. كلهم ما نقدر إحنا كشعب عراقي نتواصل معهم إلا عن طريق الحكومة، والحكومة أدائها كلش ضعيف بخصوص هذا الموضوع. وهذا
So who is offering the translation?
Sufyan, can you translate it for us?
I think I missed him. I didn't get his point. He said he is from Iraq. They face a lot of challenges regarding the environment, especially in the rivers. The country has agreement with Iran and Turkey, and they, as local NGOs, they don't have the rights to communicate with those companies. And the government, they didn't do their job on terms of how to keep the environmental situation in the rivers, let's say, environmentally friendly to the environment. So I missed his last point. So if Faisal لو كان سمعني, yeah, I think his connection is bad.
Yeah, I think we've lost him. The Matrix was translated with the languages that we have within the working group. But if there's anyone of you guys in the room here that would be able to translate it in Arabic, would be more than happy to collaborate on this. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. In general, don't hesitate to reach out to the working group if you have any questions. A lot of information is on the website as well. So hopefully that will answer some questions. And we also have the feedback form that you can access at any time. So thank you very much for everyone who joined us. Sorry, we went over time. Thank you to all of you guys that were in the room that helped us with the Matrix. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.